Good morning, everybody. Last time we have discussed about the diabetic foot and diabetic gangrene. So I am Dr. Apturkar again continuing with the module arterial diseases. So today we will discuss the topic that is peripheral vascular diseases. Now today we will be discussing what are the various types of peripheral vascular diseases, various etiological factors and predisposing factors which leads to development of peripheral vascular diseases, and we will also learn preventive measures and how to manage and rehabilitate patient for PVD. Now in peripheral vascular diseases there are many entities like atherosclerosis, which is mostly a medical condition, and then we will see Berger disease and Raynaud's disease in detail. Then there are autoimmune disorders, connective tissue disorders like rheumatoid arthritis, systemic lupus erythematosus, polyarteritis nodosa, and other rare conditions like temporal arteritis. So these connective tissue disorders or autoimmune disorders related with these arteries, they can be treated with steroids. So mostly they can be managed with medicines. And diabetic foot we have already discussed in previous lecture. The Berger disease, that is first described as senile gangrene in 1879 by Felix, who was an Australian surgeon, but the name given as Berger disease. So after description by the Berger in 1924, he called it as a thromboangiitis obliterans (TAO). TAO Berger disease. Now it is found worldwide, but more common in Asian and Middle East, which are developing countries. So atherosclerosis, which is found in 80% cases in developed countries, and this TAO, it is found more commonly in Asian Middle East countries. Prevalence is 45 to 60% in India. It is mainly a disease of male smokers involving medium and small arteries. Although specific cause is not known, but it is correlated with the tobacco use, particularly heavy smoking. So as I have said, it is a disorder of small medium arteries. In atherosclerosis, usually medium and large arteries they are involved. That is the differentiating point. The large sizes artery involvement is present in atherosclerosis. Now this disease is characterized by segmental and progressive occlusion of arteries, which is again uh, differentiating it from the atherosclerosis, where you get atherosclerosis mostly involving bifurcation area. Again, it is characterized by thrombophlebitis of superficial veins. Veins are also involved. It is particularly migrating type of thrombophlebitis, which is characteristic in Berger disease. And also Raynaud's phenomena can be demonstrated in Berger disease and histologically microabscesses. So that is the characteristic of Berger disease, which involves artery, vein, and also nerve. So you can see the inflammatory changes in the wall of artery veins leading to thrombosis, and there is a periarteritis with thrombosis. So inflammation of vein, nerve, and artery, that is the characteristic of Berger disease, that is called as panarteritis. Now during the course of disease, Initially in acute phase, there is a severe inflammation of all layers with formation of microabscesses can be demonstrated by histology. Then at intermediate state, there is a thrombus getting organized with inflammatory infiltrate. Then it turns into chronic phase where you will get organization of thrombus with extensive recanalization and perivascular thrombosis can occur. And characteristically, there is a segmental involvement of arteries with skip areas. That is characteristic. Mostly anterior, posterior tibial or ulnar vessels and nerve, they are involved. So in pathogenesis, we can see there is a cell-mediated sensitivity to T1 and T2 collagen. We can demonstrate anti-nuclear, anti-elastin, anti-collagen 1, 2 and anti-nicotine antibodies. So that's why we can establish correlation with the smoking. There is predisposition to HLA9, HLA-B5 antigen, and the deposits of immunoglobulin C3 and 4 can be demonstrated in blood vessel. Again, we can find that high homocysteine and high anti-cardiolipin titer antibodies is suggestive of severity of the disease, and it is associated with high amputation rate in the patient. So detection of this high homocysteine or anti-cardiolipin titer antibodies will give you assessment regarding the progress of the disease, whether the patient requires amputation. Histological picture shows fibrosis of adventitia. There is a proliferation of intimal endothelium resulting into swelling of vasa vasorum. There is a lymphocytic infiltration in all layers, and characteristically the internal elastic lamina is preserved. So that is the differentiating point on histology. It can differentiate with other conditions, other vasculitis. Here the arterial lumen is blocked, it is not thickened as it is seen in atherosclerosis. That is again differentiating points. So on histology, we can differentiate the Berger disease from other vasculitis and other pathologies. Now, what are the risk factors for the development of Berger disease? We can consider nutritional factors like anemia, hypoproteinemia, vitamin deficiency. They can be associated with increased incidence. The most common, that is smoking, chronic smoking, heavy smoking of tobacco. It presents with hypersensitivity reaction to the smoking. Now there is a smoking index, the number of cigarettes per day multiplied by number of years smoked, which is more than 300, that is significant. Then pack year index, that is number of packs per day smoked multiplied by number of years smoked. If it is more than 40, then it has got association with the increased risk of Berger disease. There is familial tendency, familial factor can be there, or hormonal. The hormonal factor can be demonstrated as it is not common in female. The females have got protection due to hormones like estrogen. So female usually don't suffer with the Berger disease. Even if they are smokers, it is rarely found. Low socioeconomic status, and again smoking associated factor with low socioeconomic status. The people usually smoke bidis. Poor oral hygiene, again causes, there is some association with poor oral hygiene. Recurrent injuries, they are predisposing factors for Berger disease. Now, how smoking affects in Berger disease? So here is an algorithm. Smoking producing carbon monoxide, nitric oxide, which results into carboxylated hemoglobin. This carboxylated hemoglobin will cause vasospasm of peripheral vessels with resultant intimal hyperplasia. That will further lead to thromboobliteration. Again, there will be infiltration and panarteritis, which is segmental characteristically, involving artery, vein, nerve. So the whole bundle of artery, vein, nerve, it is involved. So nerve involvement will give rise to rest pain. The arterial involvement, arteriovenous involvement give rise to ischemia, distal ischemia of the tissue. Sometimes it runs a chronic course where there is a time to develop collaterals. If the collaterals are developed, then distal flow is improved, and this is the stage where we call it as a compensated peripheral vascular disease. So it can be treated at this compensated stage where some cure can occur, or we can prevent the progression of the disease and we can save the limb. But if patient continue to smoke, the disease will progress and ultimately it will lead to blockage of collaterals. The disease will involve the collateral vessels and the limb will be decompensated. So that is the stage of decompensated peripheral vascular disease. That is stage also known as critical limb ischemia. So we already discussed what is the meaning of critical limb ischemia. So once it is reached to critical limb ischemia, it is difficult to save the limb. So that may require amputation. The disease is common in younger adults, 20 to 45 years group, which you find they are heavy smokers. Females are not involved. It is associated with tingling numbness in feet and hand in early stages. We can demonstrate pale reddish blue discoloration. Then there can be history of claudication, wrist pain and ulcer, and then ultimately gangrene depending on the progress of the disease. So here the peripheral pulsations are absent, usually below popliteal, that is dorsalis, pedis and posterior tibial, they are usually absent or feeble. We can demonstrate Raynaud's phenomena, that is stage of local blanching, then asphyxia and then recovery. So Raynaud's phenomena is can be demonstrated in Berger disease patient. So this phenomena can be demonstrated by asking the patient to put one hand in hot water and one in cold water, and then after a few minutes they can be immersed in normal water and we can demonstrate the Raynaud's phenomena. Then there is history of recurrent superficial migratory thrombophlebitis, which is characteristic of Berger disease. So these are the changes, gangrenous changes or recurrent thrombophlebitis, which is migratory. It develops in a later stage. So usually it is common in lower limbs. Upper limb involvement is less common, but it starts with one limb and then one lower limb, and then it progresses to other lower limb, and thereafter as the disease is advanced, it can spread to upper limb also. Now other features of atherosclerosis, they are upset. There is a history of remission of the symptoms and again history of relapses, and mostly it is a clinical diagnosis. Clinically the Berger disease is diagnosed. So it has to be differentiated from atherosclerosis. We have already discussed few differentiating points. The atherosclerosis usually involves lower limb. Upper limb involvement is less uncommon in atherosclerosis. But in Berger's, upper limb involvement can occur in late stages. So we can stage the Berger disease into 7 stages. Stage O0, that is asymptomatic patient. Stage 1, history of mild claudication. Stage 2, history of moderate claudication. Stage 3, history of severe claudications. Now these are 1, 2, 3 according to claudication stages we have already seen. Stage 4, there is a rest pain. Stage 5, ischemic ulcer, they are evident. In last stage, that is stage 6, you can see severe ischemic ulcer and gangrene. So disease can progress from mild symptom, just pain or asymptomatic stage to gangrene. So this is a classification given by Rutherford. Now investigations mainly done to rule out other similar condition mimicking the Berger disease. So mostly it is a clinical diagnosis. You can settle the diagnosis on clinical history and examination, and most common factor, that is a chronic smoking. So to rule out other conditions like atherosclerosis, Raynaud disease, vasculitis, and other comorbid conditions like diabetes, hypertension, hyperlipidemia. So you have to go with routine blood test, then ultrasound, color Doppler and duplex scan for vascular system to assess the disease level or involvement of arterial segment. So color Doppler and duplex scan are very helpful to assess the disease. Angiography is not essential, but sometimes it can be done, because since it is a disease of smaller, medium size and smaller vessels, usually vascular surgery is not possible. So angiography is of little help or not essential. Still it can be done, but not preferred, as it can cause more harm to the patient, or disease may progress or worsen. So more preferable is a DSA, digital subtraction angiography, or CT MRI angiography. That is more preferable. So this angiography, we can see a proximal normal pattern, and there can be inverted tree root or spider leg like deformities due to severe extensive collaterals, and then you can see a distal run up, again filling of dye. The corkscrew appearance can be there, characteristically seen due to dilated vasa vasorum. The arteries can be seen as a corrugated appearance due to vasospasm. So we can go with the DSA, CT MRI angiography rather than invasive angiography, that is transfemoral angiography. Then again, diagnosis can become confirmed with the biopsy of artery, vein and nerve. So involvement of arteriovenous and nervous bundle, that is characteristic. So biopsy can differentiate it from other vasculitis and other conditions. So there is no curative treatment. Disease cannot be cured, but disease can be halted. The progression of disease can be prevented by means of treatment and stopping of smoking. So there is no cure. We have to tell the patient that there is no cure and he has to quit smoking. He is instructed that either he will prefer to have his limb or smoking, not both. So option is only one. We can have RSCP, that is Residential Smoking Cessation Program. Some institution can run this program to make the patient free from smoking. So this program that includes staying at facility or at hospital, indoor hospital, where there is a daily counseling sessions which are held with the patient. Patient is engaged in other social and physical activities so that he can have abstinence from smoking, and patient will learn to live tobacco free life. Similarly, passive smoking must be avoided. It is equally important. Then oral hygiene should be properly maintained with brushing, using mouthwashes. So other treatment, mostly medical, in the form of drugs, analgesics, they are required frequently. Aspirin, clopid, used as a platelet inhibitor to prevent secondary events. Pentoxifylline 400 mg BID, that improves microcirculation by correcting RBC deformity, increasing the flexibility of RBCs, and also reduces viscosity of the blood. So pentoxifylline can be given. Silastazole 100 mg BID. So this phosphodiesterase inhibitor, it inhibits the platelet aggregation and thereby it improves the circulation. So it is ideal preferred drug. Then other drugs like atorvastatin 100 mg BID, that is cholesterol lowering agent. Then prostacyclin, ticlopidine, praxilin, nifedipine. Nifedipine is a calcium channel blocker in the dose of 20 mg BID. Then low molecular dextran can be used to improve the microcirculation. So these drugs, they act on collateral to improve the circulation, and they will improve the claudication distance, which can be judged clinically. So nifedipine is also used as calcium channel blocker. And mind well, the vasodilators and anticoagulants, they are not preferred. They are not used for Berger disease. Care of limb and care of foot is equally important. Food should be prevented from trauma, excessive heat, cold. Pressure points should be avoided. Moisturizer for dryness. So that is the science called as chiropody, care of foot and care of limb. Then Berger's position to improve the dependent circulation by making the patient to sleep in head-up position. So that will improve the circulation because of gravity. Berger's graded exercises, 30 minutes exercise sessions daily, they are given to patient, which will improve the claudication distance and will help to develop the collateral circulation. Then heel lengthening, tendoachelis lengthening or bony lengthening can be done. So heel length can be increased by 2 centimeter by lengthening the bone. So that will help to reduce the claudications, to improve the walking and claudication distance. So these are the surgeries can be done in Berger patient to improve the claudication distance and to prevent the claudication. Now other surgical procedures like lumbar sympathectomy, removal of L2, 3, 4 lumbar vertebra, preganglionic lumbar sympathetic chain. The open surgery that is obsolete nowadays, we go for chemical lumbar sympathectomy by blocking the lumbar ganglion second, third, fourth. It has got temporary effect but it helps to improve cutaneous circulation and to reduce the pain of the patient, requiring less amount of analgesic. So repeated session can be um, tried for a chemical lumbar sympathectomy, injection of anesthetic agent like sensorcan, which act for short duration. Phenol is injected in ganglion that can act for longer period. So chemical lumbar sympathectomy can be tried in patient. Then omental pedicle is brought around the knee through the tunnel, and this omentoplasty can help to improve the collaterals around the knee. In profundoplasty against that will help to develop the collaterals. Ilezzaro bone lengthening technique, that is to reduce the claudication and increase the claudication distance. When the gangrene is established, then there is no option other than going for below knee or above knee amputation. So that is the last choice for the patient if the gangrene is developed. So one has to prevent the development of gangrene, and patient must be warned regarding this gangrene and loss of limb when it requires amputation. Some recent upcoming therapies like spinal cord stimulation, where we inject nitric oxide or GABA in spinal cord, that inhibits the sympathetic nerves and vasoconstriction due to sympathetic nerves, resulting into vasodilatation and improve the peripheral circulation. Genetic therapy, injection of vascular endothelial growth factors, which promotes angiogenesis, that can be tried. And in recent days, stem cell therapy is also tried for Berger disease, but that is depends on availability of the center. Now the next entity in the peripheral vascular disease, that is Raynaud's disease. So Maurice Raynaud described this condition in 1862, which is characterized by episodic vasospasm of arterioles of hand. So he demonstrated Raynaud's phenomena. Now this Raynaud's phenomena is a sequence of blanching, cyanosis and redness of the disease. So this is triad, sequence of triad, which is present as a Raynaud's phenomena. Now Raynaud's phenomena occurs in as a primary Raynaud's phenomena and secondary Raynaud's phenomena. In Raynaud's disease, it is a primary Raynaud's phenomena where you get sequence of blanching, cyanosis and red digit. So there is an abnormal sensitivity to arterial response to the cold. The arterial response to the cold is abnormal because of hypersensitivity. First we will see Raynaud's phenomena. It is characterized by 3 stages. First, that is the local syncope. Stage of local syncope. It is due to severe vasospasm with cessation of dermal circulation, which is transient, and it produces severe pallor and tingling numbness in the digits. Now that is followed by second stage of local asphyxia. There is a slight relaxation of arterial spasm, which results into accumulation of deoxygenated blood slowly as the capillary dilates. It gives rise to cyanosis and burning sensation due to accumulation of metabolites. Then it progresses to stage 3, that is a local recovery stage, when the vasospasm of arteriole subsides, arterioles gets relaxed, there is a return of oxygenated blood giving flushing and pain in digits. It causes redness of digits, and pain is due to tissue tension which is increased as the blood is being engorged. And if this phenomena persists, this spasm persists for more than 1 hour, then there is a ischemia and gangrene. So it further develops into stage of local gangrene. Now this Raynaud's phenomena, it is a primary and secondary. Primary, where there is no cause, it is idiopathic. Secondary Raynaud's phenomena is due to underlying cause, that is called as Raynaud's syndrome. So we'll discuss it in it, Raynaud's syndrome. Raynaud's disease is more commonly seen in young females, nearly 70 to 90% cases. And again, bilateral hand involvement is common in females. The vasospasm can be precipitated by exposure to cold or intense emotion. There is a history of recurrent attacks of this episode. Now, cold fingers, usually medial forefingers, they are involved. Thumb is spared. The peripheral pulsations are present. So that is how we can differentiate this Raynaud's disease from Berger disease. Where in Berger disease you get absent of peripheral pulsation. In Raynaud's disease, the peripheral pulsation, they are present. The wrist pain, gangrene of fingertips can develop in later stages. Apart from clinical history and clinical examination, we can go for routine investigation, blood chemistry, to rule out other comorbid conditions. Then cold recovery time or reactive hyperemia time can be tested. Rheumatoid and antigen test, protein electrophoresis, anti-nuclear antibody test, this can be done. The more informative is arterial Doppler. Then other angiography like DSA, MR can be helpful to assess the disease. But the most of the time these investigations show no positive findings and the diagnosis only clinical. We can rule out other vasospastic condition with these investigations. So careful history and clinical examination and demonstration of Raynaud's phenomena will help to the diagnosis of Raynaud's disease. How to treat the Raynaud's disease? So there is a hypersensitivity to cold. Cold will precipitate vascular spasm. So patient is educated to avoid the exposure to cold. So that will be the preventive measure. And patient is advised to stop smoking, although it is not directly related to smoking like Berger's, but still it can aggravate the condition. So it is better to advise to stop smoking. Avoid nail bed, pulp infections, or that will result into ulcers and progression and gangrene. Electrically heated clothes can be used during winter or when there is exposure to severe cold. And patient is advised to stay in warm atmosphere if he is staying in the cold atmosphere. Drugs like aspirin, pentoxifylline, nifedipine can be tried for vasodilatation. In refractory cases, we can go with cervical sympathectomy. Nowadays, endoscopic transthoracic sympathectomy can be done. It relieves the severe spasm which is not responding to conservative treatment. In any case, the patient should avoid oral contraceptive pills, beta blocker, and ergot containing drugs that will precipitate the vasospasm, arterial spasm. So that should be avoided. And main prevention is to avoid exposure to cold. So proper education of cold, education of patient to avoid the exposure of cold will prevent the further attacks. If the gangrene is there, then we have to go with the amputation. Now, what is Raynaud's syndrome? So this Raynaud's phenomena occurs due to secondary cause. Here it is related with Raynaud's phenomena, but it is due to some secondary underlying cause. So Kaufman has described the Raynaud's syndrome. When these Raynaud's phenomena recurrent attacks, they last from 1 to 2 months to 2 years. Then it is called as Raynaud's syndrome, as the term given by Kaufman. There is a peripheral vasospasm due to causes, some underlying causes, like seen in atherosclerosis, thromboangiitis obliterans, that is Buerger's. It is also common in thoracic outlet syndrome, carpal tunnel syndrome. It is seen in the patients who are engaged with the occupation where the vibrating tools they are used, like in mining and road making or stone breaking. So where they use vibrating tools, this vibration causes peripheral vasospasm resulting into Raynaud's syndrome. Then other autoimmune disorders, collagen disorders like SLE, rheumatoid arthritis, scleroderma. So these cases can be treated with steroids. These collagen disorders, here the Raynaud's phenomena or Raynaud's syndrome, it can be more aggressive, requiring amputations of digits if the gangrene develops. So patient can be made symptom free by amputating the digits if it is a more aggressive, serious in collagen disorders. The treatment for Raynaud's syndrome, again, avoid precipitating factors, then avoid occupational exposure like vibrating tools or going into cold atmosphere. Treatment of underlying cause. In case of autoimmune disorders, steroids, they are helpful. And other medical line of treatment is same as for Raynaud's disease. That is use of vasospastic antagonist. So this is in short the Raynaud's disease and Buerger disease, more common peripheral vascular disease entity. So thank you for patience listening. And here it is important to prevent the progression of disease. So early intervention and patient education, that is important. In case of Buerger disease, quitting the smoking is very important. And again in Raynaud's disease, exposure to cold to be avoided. So patient is to be educated to take proper care of his limb. So that is all for today regarding peripheral vascular disease. Thank you again.